Space Marines, we need to have a talk. FiOth here, and sadly it's come to my realization that many people don't actually understand how this game's supposed to be played. There's a lot of whining online, a lot of negativity, and a lot of misinformation going around about what the nature of this game is and how it should be approached to be entertaining and fun. Many people state that the game is extremely hard, others say that they don't understand how certain systems work, and of course the vast majority thinks they understand how things work, and because of that they condemn the game without putting in the hours and brain power to break its systems down. Here we will be seeing some gameplay of Operation 6 on Ruthless. I was playing with a couple of my friends, and it will be going extremely smooth, as you will be able to perceive, with a couple of hiccups due to the RNG nature of the game. I will be putting bullet points on the screen or cutting and inserting specific segments to make things more understandable to you. Without further ado, let's get going with what we should be paying attention to. First and foremost, people have to understand that this game cannot be played as a straight up shooter, because it is not one. It is a very hybrid experience between a third-person shooter and a beat-em up, a brawler like those of the times of yore. Think, let's say, Streets of Rage. That gives it a couple of very specific characteristics. Characteristic number one, attempting to stay at long range and fighting like that for the entirety of a match is nigh impossible, even if you are a sniper. Why is that? Well, in this game, you're gonna get hit. You're gonna get hit by the ranged attackers, you're gonna get hit by the sneaky attackers, you're gonna get hit by the waves coming behind your quote-unquote formation. In order to survive those hits, you have two tools at your disposal. You have your shields and you have your finishers. Finishers make you invulnerable and restore all your gray health, that is called contested health in the game, and the segment of your shields. According to what kind of class you run and what kind of perks you have run in the class, you will get some other minuscule differentiations of this recovery process. What that ultimately means is that you will have to eventually get in the thick of it to recover yourself. There will also be instances where there are huge gaps throughout a replenishment of ammo, and you will then have to rely on your melee weapon in order to get through a segment, unless you want to be totally redundant, not offering anything to the team. It should also be stated that you cannot carry enough ordnance to just bomb every single wave of enemies you will find. At best you will be carrying 3 frags, and as you increase the quality of those bombs, you reduce the quantity available. There are specific perks that allow you to replenish some, but they usually have a cooldown timer of 3 minutes. So understanding that you have to use both melee and ranged combat is paramount when playing this game. Second big category has to do with the fact that melee combat in this game is not a masher's delight. You cannot bottom mash your way to victory in Space Marine 2. You have to treat it, as I said earlier, as a brawler, a technical brawler that is, or even better, as a fighting game. There are specific attack strings with heavies and lights. There are attacks that trigger when you are running, there are attacks that trigger when you are dodging, and knowing what you can do with each one of these attacks is super important. Let's say you're using a hammer by utilizing the assault class. A dodge and attack or a run and attack will initiate a pommel smash. The pommel smash will always send a small enemy to the ground, proccing a gun strike. A gun strike kill in this way will always recover your gray health and a segment of your shield. So knowing that you can force them into that state and destroy them in one very proficient attack instead of just whacking them on the head with a hammer is a much more productive way of going about doing your business than utilizing the whatever works method that will probably get you killed on substantial and beyond. Since we're talking precision, let's talk about the parry system. People tend to get furious about the parry system, and that is to an extent due to the fact that many of the people who come to play Space Marine are victims of the dad game mentality, as I used to call it. They usually play gamers like Helldivers 2, Aliens Fireteam Elite, that are occasionally less dynamic, like Fireteam Elite, because I will be honest, Helldivers requires a good amount of movement, but they are very monotone monodimensional in the sense that you have to deal with guns, ranged combat, melee is an afterthought, and you have to deal with enemies at long range, pretty much avoid allowing them to get close to you. Space Marine 2 does not work like that, and that means that you have to learn how to parry because it is essential to surviving. When leveling your stuff, you will notice that there is a specific trait tied to specific weapons called fencing. There are 3 of this configuration. One is balance, that is your starting, let's say the normal configuration. There is block that does not allow parries but will allow you to grab the blue initiators on the smaller enemies and of course block attacks, and then there is fencing that allows for a wider window of opportunity when it comes to parrying attacks. If you're just starting and feel like the game is too punishing when it comes to those parries, go for a weapon with fencing and teach yourself the timings of each individual enemy. You don't have to brute force your way to efficiency, you have to enjoy the process so your mind will want to process the information and learn. If you don't do that, you will be going through a gauntlet of frustration and you will not be assessing the information optimally. Forget about blocks. In general, blocks are kind of useless. Balance can be challenged, and that goes into the kit of certain of the classes. Let's say the heavy cannot really have a weapon with fencing. Contrary to public belief, the heavy gun that they are using is not the best tool to parry with, so go with a tactical, let's say, or go with a vanguard, equip a knife or the chainsaw on the fencing configuration and just practice with that for starters. As I said earlier, little enemies can always be caught midair and executed even with a block weapon, but my suggestion is forget all about them, they're kinda useless, and go after training yourself to parry attacks. You will also come to the realization that not all weapons are created equal, and while certain weapons are misunderstood and actually bear great potential, there are a couple of outliers right now that will make your life that much easier. The heavy bolt rifle, the fully automatic, is one of the most consistent weapons in the game, and the Melta that you by the way see me using here is totally broken. The game right now is not working as intended, allows for great recovery of your contested health, making your life that much easier. If you wanna ease yourself into this game so you can move from the harder stuff into a more manageable situation by improving your skills, get a class that can use a Melta or multi-Melta and just go easy mode and then tackle the harder stuff. Using a powerful tool will give you W's, will give you wins, and getting the wins will incentivize progressing and learning more. If you are trying to initiate your interaction with this game using the assault class heavily reliant on melee combat and parries, and you're totally clueless, you're not gonna have a good time, and as stated before, not having a good time means you won't want to continue, will get disheartened and you will want to stop. You'll miss out on one of the greatest experiences in recent memory because you couldn't wrap your head around half the system of work. Take it easy, use what's powerful, and if it gets nerfed eventually, you will have used the time in between to learn how to play optimally. Now I know some of you people are totally against playing with other human beings. I get that in some cases this has to do with certain conditions like anxiety. Generally this game is better enjoyed with other people, but something I wanna totally underline, even if you're playing with strangers through quick play and matchmaking and all that stuff, understanding what each class needs is paramount for the success of the team. So if you, let's say, have a heavy on the team, that heavy needs ammo more than you playing the bulwark. I know you like your little pew pew gun and you want to have some ranged options, but the heavy is totally reliant on having bullets to fire. If they cannot fire, their DPS falls through the floor and there is nothing to be expected by them. You don't expect the heavy gunner to go and smash shit with a chain gun. So if you're playing bulwark, for example, let the heavy get ammo first. If the heavy confirms with a ping that they saw the ammo and they don't need the ammo, go grab the ammo and give yourself some ranged opportunities. Also, getting a moment through the menus of every class, understanding what they're capable of, will save you a lot of times. There is currently a skill that you can deploy as a bulwark whilst using the banner, the standard that you pretty much roll to the ground, will replenish everyone's contested health. If that happens right before an execution, you get a free 100% heal on your character just because you got a huge ass chunk of contested health out of nowhere. So if a bulwark is a good player, they will understand that you need that execution. Wait for them to put that banner down and then grab the first available finisher to get your health back. If you are a class that does not have a lot of ranged opportunities, let's say you're only using a pistol and you are afraid you will be fighting zoanthropes or a neurothrope, flying enemies that need to be dealt with at range, always carry crack grenades. Crack grenades are sticky, very magnetic, and in case of zoanthropes, even on Ruthless, will take them down in one application. You can carry two. When you stumble upon twin zoanthropes, you can single-handedly take them down with two cracks, even if you are a class that doesn't deal in range damage. There is no reason why you should handicap yourself by carrying, let's say, frags, since they can only function on ground level. You are restricting your efficiency and thus hurting the team. Another newbie mistake that gets made often is don't use your health packs when everything is chill. I know you wanna go into combat with full health, but that full health is probably going to be contested. That's why it's called contested health. Carry the health pack and use it as you start getting hurt or after suffering from a condition. The health pack will heal the condition like poison or blindness, corruption and so on and so forth, and will actually increase the amount of in the moment contested health. That means that a finisher at that point or a gunshot on a little enemy that will kill them will actually heal you for the entirety of that green health area. That is a huge boon. It can save you a lot of headaches when you try to refill your health, or even worse, if you have suffered a wound, you need to be at full health or near full health and then use a health pack to cure that wound and not die in the next down. Strategize, be careful about your initial approach, and if push comes to shove, know where to use a tool at your disposal to optimize your effectiveness. After talking about the tools of the trade and the class synergy and all that, let's talk about a couple of the enemies. Know how to find the extremists, how to fight your Raveners and your Lictors and your Terminators and so on and so forth, because every single one brings something to the table. The Lictor will try to ambush you. You have to be very alert when you see that an extremist is in play, but you don't know what that extremist is. The Ravener will slither around leaving poison behind it. Don't hunt after it. If you're fighting Chaos Marines and you keep finding them around every corner, there is a lesser sorcerer somewhere reviving them, and so on and so forth. Attempting to just brute force your way through every encounter without first understanding the strengths and weaknesses of the enemy is what's gonna lead to failure, and failure leads to a lack of incentive to keep playing and keep learning. I hope you were able to learn something out of this breakdown. I feel there's great potential in the combat system in this game, and I would really like for it to thrive because it is an excellent product created with the consumer in mind, and we need more games like this, especially in today's gaming landscape that tends to look like a bottomless well of attempts from the developers to get their hands in your pockets. If you have any questions or need any specifics about anything I just said, leave a comment in the section below. If you want to see live gameplay of us running through Ruthless and succeeding, subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell to be notified about uploads and streams. Until next time, be well, stay frosty, and always strive for perfection. Cheers!